The upcoming recession is going to be a massive buying opportunity. And if you're a founder, that also means there's a chance to go scoop up some businesses. So I wanted to share a couple of lessons I learned from buying small businesses, and hopefully you can take a thing or two and integrate it into whatever your plan is. First things first, don't do a turnaround. What I mean by that, the revenue was falling, clients were leaving, the work that we were doing was no longer relevant. And I decided to took over the company and I bought the company and I structured a deal that was a good deal overall, but ultimately if I were to go back in time, I wouldn't have done the deal because let's say a stock drops 50% in value. Well, in order to go back to the original value, you have to gain by 100%. So it's actually more work to go into a turnaround situation. There are people that love turning around businesses. There are corporate turnaround specialists that you can look into, but it's something that I took on. And do I regret it? Not really. I learned a lot, but would I do it again? Probably not. So don't go into a turnaround situation. If you want to have a business that is growing, you want a business with healthy margins, you want a business with healthy and happy people, you want a business that has had a strong track record for the last 3 years or so. Which brings me to my next point. You have to do your due diligence. When I bought the agency and when I acquired some other agencies later, I didn't do enough due diligence. So being detail oriented, if it's not one of your core strengths, which is not one of mine, it's important to have people that are super detail oriented, but also they have done transactions like these and they're helping you. You will have lawyers, you will have finance people helping you will have accountants helping you. You might have people on your deal team that are helping you with this. You want to make sure ideally these people have kind of been there, done that. Otherwise you're all kind of learning together. And this is a very high stakes situation where if you buy business, especially, there's a lot more that goes into it. There are other people involved, there are customers involved, there might be inventory involved. It can become a mess very quickly. So doing your due diligence and spending time doing it, not listening to a broker that's trying to very quickly get a deal done.
Our analysts indicate it could go a heck of a lot higher than that. Your profit on a mere $6,000 investment would be upwards of $60,000.
Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's partner, likes to say, show me the incentive and I'll show you the outcome. The broker's incentive is to get a deal done because they'll make money. It's not to stretch it out. They want to get it done because the more due diligence that happens, time kills all deals. Also, you're interviewing some key people on the team as well. One of the biggest mistakes I made was not doing enough due diligence on the people and then waiting until the first day and seeing that, oh crap, this is not the right fit. And by the way, through all of this, if you're doing any type of small business M&A, the only person to blame at the end of the day if things go wrong is you. If things go right, you can applaud the team that you put together, but everything comes down to you. You are not only one of the owners of the business, but from a sports team perspective, you are one of the GMs of the business. You are putting the squad together, and so it's on you to make the right decisions. And if you make the wrong decision, then it's on you to pivot very quickly. Now, the third piece is on integration. Once you've done the acquisition, congratulations. That's the first part of it. The second part, which is arguably much harder, is the integration piece. If you buy another company, there will be another culture that's coming into how you're doing things. And what I mean by that is if you buy a company and they're used to working around the clock and your company not so much so, and your company does one-on-ones with direct reports, the other company does not do, there are philosophical differences. And so it's really important during due diligence that you uncover these things and you think about your sacred cows and you just ask them questions. Hey, what do you all think about one-on-ones? What do you do for performance management? What do you do here? What do you do there? And I actually ignored one of the red flags when I was talking to some of these companies in the past. I asked about one-on-ones, I asked about performance reviews, I asked about employee engagement tools and all that. And not saying people have to go buy a tool, I'm just trying to understand how they think about this stuff. And the response I got was, we don't have time for that. That was a red flag, but I chose to ignore it because I was so excited about getting the deal done. The other thing I'll say is, for me, I was buying service-based businesses. I mean, every single business is all about people, but the service-based business, the product, they are the people. The people, oftentimes, if you're buying a small business from an entrepreneur, that entrepreneur was the one that has built up all the goodwill. They fought and clawed their way up, and these people were in the trenches with this person. They love the entrepreneur, and chances are the entrepreneur is skilled in some way, shape, or form. They've made things happen. And so how can you get the entrepreneur to do an earnout of a couple years? And you can just say that it's industry standard. I chose not to do that, and that was my mistake because that's what they wanted, and I thought I could be accommodating, and I thought that would be better. In retrospect, it would have been better to keep those leaders because they would have helped retain other people. Because imagine all of a sudden your leader's gone and that leads to a domino effect. There's other people that leave. And so it's really important to keep the leader, especially if they're inspirational, especially if you understand what their superpowers are when you're talking to them. The other thing I'll say is you cannot delegate the vision. So I remember in the past with the ad agency Single Grain, when I first took it over, I delegated the vision, or more so read a book called Let My People Go Surfing. It's a great book. And I took it too literally and decided to stop showing up to the office. And I was effectively delegating the vision. I was effectively holding people accountable. And at the end of the day, there's only one person to blame, and that was myself. And you also can't delegate your vision to people that are relatively new and just kind of step out too quickly. You have to be very involved. You have to be in the game. You have to be pads on, you have to be battling it out, you have to be in the trenches. Otherwise, things are going to get hairy very quickly. And being decisive is another important element. That means that with personnel, you have to be decisive. If you have a weird gut feeling about a situation or someone and you think it's no longer a fit, you're probably right. There's not one instance where my gut feeling about an individual has come out wrong. In fact, chances are I should have made that decision a lot sooner. If you're good at looking at people, then you should act on it, because every single day that you decide to delay ends up harming the business more and more, and it compounds more and more. So before we continue, I want to tell you about the founders mastermind I have called Leveling Up Founders. It's for 7-figure founders in the world of business, marketing, and media. And you can go learn more at levelingup.com/founders. Next event is in Beverly Hills in August. And it's just great people, great time, doing great activities, breaking bread. And it's our version of a mastermind for people that are at the top of their game. And it's invite only. Continuing on here, when it comes to being decisive, especially when we're talking about people, if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. For anything really, but really important with people. If you don't feel within the first 5 minutes the vibe check is really good, or if you see a red flag, you're probably right. The thing I want to say also is you want to make sure that you are buying companies that are complementary to what it is that you're doing. If you are a web design shop and you're just buying other web design shops that are kind of the same thing as you, you're not adding as much value as you could. I'm oversimplifying it, but ideally, if you're a web design shop, maybe you can buy a web dev shop, you can buy a marketing agency, you can buy things that are related, and you're also looking to buy clients, you are looking to buy the capabilities, and ultimately you want it to be a situation where it's 1 + 1 = 3. I would say the other piece is staying focused. You can't say, oh, I'm going to be buying these companies, but I'm also going to be doing 3 or 4 different things at once that are not as related to the business. Buying each company is already a full-time job. One of my mistakes was buying 2 at a time, right? You want to buy 1 at a time, focus on the integration, and not get too distracted with other things. You want to make sure that you are locked in on the main thing, and you want to keep the main thing the main thing. If you are locked in, there's no reason you shouldn't be able to succeed, because you've seen this movie, you've seen other people be successful with this movie. The question is, why can't you be successful with this movie? And you should be, because you're watching this video. I would also say that you can write out a vivid vision. There's a book from an author named Cameron Harold, and he talks about writing out this vivid vision. What does this vision look like in the next 3 years, the next 5 years, the next 10 years or so? What does your company look like? What is the purpose of your company? What is the mission of your company? And it's important for you or someone that's close to you to constantly reiterate what the mission is and to constantly reiterate what the values are. And that way people are holding each other accountable to these values, to this mission. If it's constantly communicated all the time, there's no excuse. And if you're holding people accountable, if you're showing people that you are serious about this, then people will take it seriously. But if you just talk about this stuff without openly holding people accountable to the vision that you have, to the values that you have, then people are just going to walk all over you. You can't have that in an organization, because the A players are watching. The A players want to work with other A players, and they just want to do good work. And they don't want to be working with B and C players, because those people end up dragging them down, and they're looking at you, the leader, to see if you have the courage to make tough decisions. Final couple things here. You want to be able to hire people that have been there, done that. You want to look for champions, people that have been promoted a couple times at the last gig. If you're looking for a VP of sales, you are looking for someone that has actually been in that type of role before, not someone that has the potential. One of the greatest mistakes I've made is just hiring based on potential. I'm not saying there's not a time and place for that. You can certainly do that for people that are more junior. You can have a longer leash there, or you can do it for people all the way up to mid-senior. But the higher the risk of the role, the more you have to look for people that have been there and done that. You have to look for champions, people that 90% of the time they can tell you what to do. 10% of the time you might have your feedback. Otherwise, how are you supposed to build leverage? You can't let you, the founder, or whoever it is on your leadership team, make all the tough decisions. You have to delegate some of the strategic thinking out so you can work above the business and work on where you really drive the most value and where your superpower lies. Last thing I'll say is trusting but verifying. And so maybe you have a new HR person that comes in and they like all the people that they're bringing in. You can trust that, but you better verify each and every person that's coming in, at least for the first month or two, and then check in every now and then. Your leadership team's goal too is to take a look at things and not just take someone else's word for it, because when you're not able to verify verify, when you're not able to provide feedback, the ship starts to become all muddled. Your processes start to break down and things start to fall apart because nobody's there to make sure that when you think about bowling, there's the bumpers, right? There's no bumpers to kind of keep people aligned and keep them on the same path forward. And I will say, when it comes to people, when it comes to personnel with these acquisitions, taking too many things at face value and not verifying and not calling things out, that is perhaps one of the biggest mistakes that were made. So by the way, me saying all this is not to say you shouldn't be doing SMB small business. I think you should, but you should take these things into account. At least my experience shares, think about where it might apply to you and think about where your holes might be. If you're going to go about buying other businesses, you go to sites like acquire.com. There's Empire Flippers as well. And I think there's a great opportunity here, but you just got to make sure that you watch out for the potholes and you could sidestep these potential things that might cause doom for your company, right? So I don't want to be doom and gloom, but I think it's a great opportunity. I just wanted to do some experience shares here. So hopefully you find that helpful. By the way, if you need help with marketing, you can always check out my ad agency. It's Single Grain. And that being said, we'll catch you later.